Go. All right, y'all. This is Hard Targets. Um, we're gonna have that theme song and then wait a moment for everybody to get in the room. It's Thursday. All right. So I'm I'm Comrade Saint, and this is the show Hard Targets for Black Hammer Times. My pronouns are he, him, and they, them, and I represent the colonized nations of Africa and the indigenous nations of Cherokee and Blackfoot. Um, so today we're going to be talking about three articles. We're highlighting the growth in the Brazil chapter and the Hammer City campaign. Um, so the three topics that we're going to be going over today are the Back to School to Die, the Charlotte School System Won't Protect the Kids article. The article, The Last Slave in Brazil Died 20 Years Ago, Dona Maria do Camaro, is Why We See Land Back. And then Black Hammer drafts Hammer City Founding Constitution. Hard Targets is a show where we go through articles in Black Hammer Times that need a little more going through. We touch base on the facts of the political news that we as colonized people need you to know more about and need you to pay attention to. So I don't want to get started too quickly because I want people to have oh no! I want people to have a chance to come into the room. Are we not online? What's going on? It says that we're live. So I'm going to keep going because I just got confirmation from my partner that we are live. So the Back to School to Die article that we're going to be going over this week is just another continuation of everything that's going on. North Carolina is reopening into phase 2 and has been for the past month. North Carolina gyms have found a loophole to open during phase 2, which is aiding to the fact that there's been spreads. I think right now there's at least 7 clusters in Raleigh alone. And Charlotte schools are reopening regardless, and they changed Charlotte Mecklenburg schools changed their decision after parents complained. First, the schools allowed parents to vote on how they want their schools to open up, which makes sense. That's fine. However, then they decided that they were going to open up regardless and then go to Plan A, which would include daily face-to-face instruction. And then they moved forward with Plan B, which was going to be a mix of online and in-person learning, which, why are you doing that to your children? We've talked about this. And then Plan C that they finally are now moving forward with is fully online remote learning. By July 9th, the schools had decided to go with Plan B and then changed it to a Plan B and remote after people kept complaining, which is, if parents are complaining, that should give you an indication that this is not something that people are viewing to be safe for their children. Regardless, those schools are still getting paid to open regardless, or if they're not receiving money or funding for it, a lot of schools are being threatened to lose funding, which is already happening. Although there are a few parents that are agreeing to do in-person schooling. They're trying to, you know, use private schools as a way to avoid a lot of the COVID precautions that are being put out. But the thing that we should realize is that despite the fact that now that everything is fully online, and there's a shortage of nurses, bus drivers, custodians, and teachers, a lot of working class children are suffering due to the lack of help in remote schooling. Putting children with learning disabilities at a disadvantage. That means children with ADHD, children with children with other learning disabilities, dyslexia, etc. I know my own child, one of them has ADHD, and they're struggling right now. It's been awful for them because a lot of what they're doing for schooling right now is just leading the kids to just do things by themselves, which is not always helpful, especially when you're struggling. It's been something that we've been knew that working class children, colonized children, are always the children that are put at the most disadvantage when it comes to learning in schools, learning one-on-one, etc. We also know that a lot of children that are colonized are also the same children that will be overwhelmingly undiagnosed with learning disabilities as well. It's common for, now people from the age of the 90s and up to have some type of undiagnosed learning disability. And, we know that children are suffering this way, which is why Black Hammer organization has the homeschooling that you should go check out. The quote that I want you guys to internalize from this article is as follows. This pandemic has revealed and proven to the world that the colonial capitalism doesn't work, and that the oppressive American regime has never cared for its people as it claims. Those things were already known to a majority of the population, but now more people are coming to their senses about this. I think that quote just really hits the nail on the head with everything that's going on as far as COVID right now and COVID schools. It's getting to the point where, we're seeing more and more spread now that schools are reopening again. And not just on college campuses, in schools as well. We want to make sure that you guys are getting this news out, getting information on what's going on, getting, your best chance at having all the information to make informed and safe decisions, which is why also you guys should be donating to the Black Hammer Disaster Relief Fund. Black Hammer is the only organization right now that is actively trying to materially address all of the issues that are going on right now. Coming from masks, coming from, food drives, coming from coat drives, all of Black Hammer is working to serve the people, to make sure that you are getting your best chance at living the way that the system takes away from us. So when you're donating to Black Hammer, disaster relief, you're donating to make sure that all colonized people are getting the things that we need. Especially right now, we know that the KN95 masks are normally the best masks to use. There have been several studies that have just been put out that say that, alternative forms of masks are not that great. And some of them are basically useless. So we want to make sure that colonized people are, when you have to go out, you're being as safe as you possibly can be. So make sure that you're going to, I believe it is BH Disaster Relief. Sorry, y'all. And then we're going to get into the next article. This article was, one, immaculate, but the title of this article is "The Last Slave in Brazil Died 20 Years Ago. Dona Maria de Carmo is why we say #LandBack." So for those of you who missed the article or don't know, Maria de Carmo Geronimo was the last legally enslaved person in Brazil. She was believed to have lived longer than any other person in history. We know oftentimes that, colonizers and settlers will try to downplay the events of slavery and make it seem as if, it was something that is beyond our view of what happened in life. But Dona Maria is the main reason why we can't let that happen, why we as colonized people work so hard to share this truth and to make sure that it's known between other colonized people. She was born in the state of Minas Gerais, Brazil in 1871, enslaved for 17 years until abolition on May 13th, 1888. That's wow. Sorry. Even after the abolition of slavery in Brazil, she worked as a maid for the next 60 years to the same family that had enslaved her. A lot of times, people don't realize that even though slavery was over, they keep slavery going with indentured servitude, the way that making everybody a slave to capitalism in general. Like, there's so many ways that they were able to keep this slavery going. We see this in the fact that, even in California with the fires, there are people who are upset because the prisoners that are too sick with COVID can't fight their fires for them. The slave labor of, the fishing industry, slave labor of several, plantations where they'll literally poison people with the chemicals that they use for pesticides. It's ridiculous. Not only that, Maria never received any kind of reparations for her enslavement. We know that this isn't uncommon, and that's one of the main reasons why we fight so hard for this to be a thing. For self-determination to be a thing, for us as colonized people to reclaim and to have that self-determination and self-governance. Because Maria lived for 129 years. That's 129 years that she's lived in slavery. 129 years that no one acknowledged the pain, the suffering that she was going through. Even so far as the fact that because she was born into slavery, the Guinness Book of World Records would not even acknowledge the fact that she was the oldest person alive. Not only that, Maria's family has never received any compensation regardless. This is another reason why we need to realize that this system that we have going on, that we have been forced to be under for so long, is not and will never have been for us. It's the only thing that is holding us down. Colonization is the main reason. It's the reason why we as Black Ham are unified together, the 4 principles of unity. That's why we believe that all issues of the colonized class are due to colonization. That is the reason, because of stories like this. And something that I really, really, really resonate with in this article is this quote that I want you guys to internalize, and it follows as: we recognize that when poor and working class colonized people get organized, we can regain control over our land. and start to build a future where nobody lives at the expense of another. That is so important. As colonized people, I cannot explain to you how often we try to live by this without having these words said directly. So many times we'll hear, like, if I got it, you got it. And that really is what this basically means here. Like, we can regain control over the land, and then we can regain that self-governance so that we're not dealing with things like food poverty anymore. We're not dealing with food deserts. We're not dealing with, bad food. Like, there's so many reasons where we as people could get organized. We as people need to get organized because we need that self-governance. We need that self-governance to want to save ourselves and to save the planet. That's why people are fucking this shit up. And because that quote really resonates with me, I want to see if what you guys have to say about this, because that really hits different. Like, to build a future where nobody lives at the expense of another, like, that hits different. Like, this article is immaculate. Also, the Brazil chapter is looking to expand. So please go donate to the BH International Cash App, and then comment Brazil in the notes so that you can aid to our comrades' self-determination in Brazil, and give other colonized people a chance at some level of self-determination under this current system that we're dealing with, especially those that are outside of the imperial core. But yeah, how are you guys feeling about that article so far? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, I read that. It was so powerful. Yes. Oh my God. When we were going over the notes for the show, that hit different. That hit my heart different. I was reading at 4 in the morning, just like, wow, immaculate. The best writing I've heard so far. Especially because we need to realize, especially in these, in this, like, the downplaying of how slavery is put off is how they maintain these systems. Because when we put it into perspective that, like, the oldest person alive was 129 years old and was still alive, like, still alive, like, for us to be talking about it enough that, like, in 2020, which that means that in 2000 this person died. That is not that far. That is not that unimaginative to put that time period together. Like, and they try to make you think that it was something where it's like, oh, slavery was 200 years ago. Okay, but that history, this effect of it is still up and walking around. Clearly, you guys are just denying it, and they will, because they can. Like, there's no way colonialism is going to tell our stories. Exactly. So many, and if you notice, like, so many, so often, like, a lot of the stories that we have for Black Humor Times, a lot of the times we have to work really hard to find sources. And part of that is because as colonized people, oral history is in our blood. We do that forever. Like, you always know one person in your family that, like, knows everything about everybody and can tell you what drama happened with who and what happened where. And that's for a reason, because that's what we do as people. That is how we keep ourselves alive. That's why there are some aspects of our culture that white people still can't, take from us. It's because we keep that alive. And we are so much more than colonizer lives. Exactly. We are. Yes. We are getting some good content today. And this story is going to be the thing that leads us. Ooh, she died the same year my little brother was born. That's crazy. I'm not much older than your brother. I was born in 1997. But, yeah, that My great grandmother Josephine was born a slave, and I remember one time in my AP US history class, my AP US history teacher told me that there was no way that my grandmother could have been born a slave. So that happened. And another reason why, as colonized people, as Black Hammer, we, as servants of the people, struggle so hard to make sure that we get you this information so that you can see the actual facts of what happens and not what colonized people are trying to get, and not what colonized people are trying to get from the lies of the system. We want to give you the real truth, what's actually happening. You know what I mean? All right. And because of that, this last article that we're going to go through. And I want to reiterate another thing, one real quick before I forget, is that Hammer City will be having a schooling system as well. But right now, on the Black Hammer organization website, you can sign up for the homeschooling education system. And I recommend that you go and do that, because that is the best way that you can break this generational cycle of misinformation and lies. Honestly, they're blatant lies, and it's time that we treated them as such, because we don't want our kids spreading that. We don't want our kids to go their lives thinking that this is how that is, when it's not the case. You know what I mean? Your passion is radiating through my screen. Thank you, Lorraine. Shout out to the Southern region, because that's where I'm from. And, we've been doing good work out there. But in greater awesome news, the last article that we're going to be going over before we get to the question portion is that the Black Hammer organization drafts Hammer City founding constitution. All right. The official constitution was written by the organization's land liberators. That is, are indigenous chiefs responsible for overseeing the dictatorship over the liberated territory of Hammer City. It was very important to Black Hammer that we return the land to the indigenous stewards. The leader of that committee, though, is Chief Shah, and Chief Shah has been working hand and foot to get this together. So please make sure that you guys are going to the Black Hammer website and looking over the Constitution and giving your feedback on it. An important part of this article is something that Chief Shah said, that says our organization's governing documents are meant to express our undying commitment to the liberation of all indigenous and colonized people under the stewardship of Turtle Island's rightful inhabitants. Again, so important, so important, that one, Hammer City is going to be the largest and most straightforward and direct answer to all of the material needs of the colonized people. But even more so, because of Black Hammer organization having such an emphasis on land question, it was so important for us to put that in our money where our mouth is, and put that into place by making sure that there are indigenous stewards to return this land to. This is stolen land. We know this. We've seen this. We've read this. We've heard this. We felt this as colonized people. So it's important that we as colonized people put that to the forefront of what we mean when we are looking for, answers to these material questions, like what is going to happen to the land? Who is the land being returned to? Why, these are the questions that need to be answered, and that's why we have this board, so that those questions are answered and they're addressed directly, and the people can address them as they're needed, as they see fit. So make sure that you're going to the Black Hammer website and pointing out your feedback, making sure that, your voice is heard, because that is what we want. We want the people to have self-governance. We want you guys to have a say in everything that's going on. All of this has been something that is said over and over and over again. You know what I mean? And like we see that even in the words that Chief Shia, says to us, like we can't just have discussions about this anymore. We need to put it into practice, and that's what Hammer City is going to do. So make sure you guys are going to Hammer City, the Hammer City Constitution, and giving your feedback to Chisha and the rest of our Indigenous leadership, and then also going to the Build Hammer City GoFundMe. That is gofundme.com / Build Hammer City, and then we have the Venmo and Cash App, which is $@ Build Hammer City, capital B, capital H, capital C. And me and my partner are going to be pledging $10 this month. So I want to see if there's anybody in the comments that can match me. Especially because, I'm on the Hammer City design team. I'm inserting that plug right here. So if you are at all interested in being directly involved with the process of building Hammer City, come join the design team. Come hang out with us. Come, help us serve the people. Come help us design and make Hammer City a reality. We're talking about Aleja. Yes, come through, Chief Aleja. Matching my donation. Yes. Love that. Oh, shit. Yes, Chisa. We got 5 on it for the liberation of the people. Hell yeah. Live for the people. I die for the people. And Lorraine. Yes. Matching that $10. Yes. Look at us. What is that? Fucking bootleg liquor, like saying take an inch. You give us an inch and we take a mile. Hell yeah, we will. Taking those miles back in the process of acquiring the land. Like what? Yes, look at us. We're doing this. I love this top, comrade say. Thank you. You know I had to come through dripping. We're killing it today, guys. I'm so proud of us. This is, yes, $5, Chief Pat. I'm going to see if we can get one more donation, and then I'm going to move forward because I do want to get to the next segment. I'm really excited about the next segment. Right. You guys got me feeling all gassed now. I'm like, yes, come through, lighting. Come through, fit. Yes, I'm giving it. Love it. Come on, guys. Can we get one more donation? Who's going to match me? And make sure when you're going and donating, make sure that you're putting that you came from Hard Targets so we can know it came from us and know that, our content is reaching somebody so that we can keep it going. Yes, one more donation, pledging 5 by next Friday. Yes, look at that. I'm so proud of us. All right, so this week we're gonna be. I'm plugging one of the articles that are gonna be coming out this week, which is talking about how the design team in Hammer City is going to be addressing a lot of the problems that are common with city living and just the housing trap in general. But specifically, I wanted to take the time to see if there were any questions that you guys had for me, because I am a member of the design team, and we do want you guys to feel like you can answer or ask and have any questions answered about what's going on, or what you want to have everything look like. Right now, we've already announced that we're going with Earthback Homes. I'm super excited about these. They're really beautiful. They're really traditional to a lot of what colonized housing structures would look like before colonization. So that's dope. And then I'm excited that we're going to be able to mix things with a modern take on what we as colonized people have been working with from the get-go. You know what I mean? So let me know what questions you guys have. Is this kind of just an excuse for me to info dump to you guys about, the project that we've been working on so far? But I mean, it's Hammer City. It's going to be the place where there's no white people, there's no rent, there's no food poverty, there's no fucking white people. Like, all of this is going to be good for us. So we're finally having a material answer to this question that we've been asking indirectly and directly for. I want to know what your ideal day in Hammer City would be. My ideal day in Hammer City would probably be wake up in the morning, or whatever time I wake up, because that's going to be a thing. I'm not going to have really bad anxiety about waking up at a specific time anymore because it's Hammer City. But wake up in the morning, partake in some herbal tinctures, and then probably like do something like artsy, like the trunk that I'm sitting on. I've painted that, or working on Hammer City probably. I like to design things a lot. I really like architecture, so I'd probably also be like really consumed in doing some other Hammer City project, if I'm gonna be honest. And then I'd come home and I'd cook. I'd be cooking up a storm. So we're probably gonna have like communal kitchens, so being able to cook for our friends and family and our comrades, and just chill out after doing some good work for the people. That's my ideal day. I just want to have a day where things are not just stressed out all the time. You know what I mean? Any more questions? I feel like I don't want to just like talk about myself, but like I also want to know, like, what do you guys want to know about designs? I will say, like, some of the things that we've been addressing are like, who can build these houses? We can. What? Anybody can build an earthback house. That's the part of, or that's like one of the things that I feel like we don't talk about a lot when we think about like housing structures, or the housing trap in general. Is that like when all of these things that we're going to be having in place in Hammer City don't, like, the fact that there's going to be no rent. You know what I mean? No rent means that like you're going to have time to just work on building your house. You know what I mean? Like, labor is going to be focused directly towards the betterment of other colonized people and yourself. You know what I mean? Like, there's going to be so much more time to do things that are going to help the community and yourself. Like, it's one of those things where it's like when you have nothing to do, suddenly all of your options become like way more expansive. Like, of course, like, you can do this. That's why we keep stressing that, Hammer City is going to be the start of us getting our self-governance back. You know what I mean? Because like, once you realize that, once these things are no longer a factor, then like the task of like, something as daunting as like building a structure, is not going to be a thing, because one, you're having your comrades to help you. You know what I mean? It's not like we're expecting every person to, just do this yourself, but also like you're going to have less worries. You're going to not have to be concerned that, something about this is going to be unsafe or unstable, or it's going to be unsustainable. You're not going to be able to keep it. You know what I mean? Because you have your comrades' help. You have your comrades' people to lean on. You have the people's power to lean on. You have that revolutionary confidence to lean on. But if we're gonna be like really direct about like who's building what, we are in the process of deciding when and where the first house is going to be built, and we're going to be announcing where Hammer City is very, very soon. So those are going to be happening. All right, another question. I'm rambling. That first Hammer City pot roast you made gonna be the best time of my life. Oh yes, and my favorite is gonna be like we're gonna have like tons of like vegetables and stuff. Hammer City design team is working. So for those of you who don't know, there are 5 teams: security, permaculture, power team, water team, and design. Design is working with all of the other teams. I mean, we're all working together regardless, but, directly working with all the other teams to make sure that we're addressing, the kind of shit that, one, makes people nervous because all of the environmental issues, and then the other issues of like how to keep, a housing structure maintained the way that we're going to be doing it. And design and power are working hard to like get things together so that we can work on solar and other types of alternative energy, so that there's no things of like when you're in a fucking apartment and like you like plug your hairdryer in and then like it just like turns everything off on like one side of the house. Like we don't want that anymore. We don't want to have to deal with that anymore, and we don't want that to be something that like is normally like, have you been like not at Hammer City, you would just be like, this is going to be a money sap. I don't know how I'm going to pay for this. Blah, 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 blah. We don't want shit like that happening. So, we're working our asses off to make sure that we keep that flow going. You know what I mean? And working with water to make sure that we're dealing with water waste and, the other issues with utility of like, not having things heated correctly, or those things. We want to make sure that we're addressing all of the living concerns that normally you would be like, my fucking landlord. You know what I mean? We don't want that. We don't want that, because Hammer City believes that all colonized people are equal, and we should be fighting for equal benefits and our meeting of needs. You know what I mean? Are there any more questions? I feel like I've been talking for a while. I think we're gonna move forward. Okay, so we're gonna move forward, and I'm going to tell you about some of the announcements that we have. So right now we are we have the Tuesday rallies, which are the mandatory meetings for everybody in Black Hammer. We ask that everybody be there so that we can all get that one political education, and also so that you can hear what the everything that we as an organization are doing, or we need your help with, or are looking to accomplish. And then we have the Oh My Ghazi's show, I believe, and we also have the book traps. We also have PEC runs a few things where they the propaganda. So make sure that you're checking that out. Go Off Sis is also another show that you should be checking out. And make sure that you are going to the Black Hammer Facebook and Instagram, and you're checking that out so that you can get the updates on where and when those are happening, because we want you to be there. We want you to be able to consume all of the political education that we're putting out. And we have 3 more questions, and I'm going to answer those real quick because those were the rest of the announcements, and I don't want you guys to feel like we're ignoring you. Who can help build Hammer City? Anyone can help build Hammer City. If you contact Campaigns Committee, you can and tell them what your interests are, what you can bring to the project. We will find a place for you because we need help. We are doing this with the people's power, but part of the people's power means that we need people. Okay, so make sure that you're joining. If you are not a part of Black Hammer and you want to be a part of Black Hammer, you should go to blackhammer.org/sign up. Sign up so that you can sign up. And I know a lot of committees are looking for people right now, so we cannot wait to get you to work. What do you think it's going to take for Hammer City to go viral? Oh, okay. What do I think it's going to take for Hammer City to go viral? Theoretically, I don't think it's going to take very much for Hammer City to go viral once people realize that Hammer City has all of the things that it's offering colonized people. I feel like Hammer City already seems like, something that, I don't know, the Medium would write about and be like, this is an idealized society, a group of people coming together, kind of shit to begin with, but it's real and tangible because we know that this is for colonized people by colonized people, you know what I mean? And I feel like the thing that is going to make that go viral for colonized people is that we can see ourselves there. We as colonized people can see the fact that, I am working on the project, that my comrades are working on this project, colonized people are working on this project, putting their all into it, because we as colonized people already know that we put in almost all this work, twice as much work as, a white person would have to do just to survive. And we know that we have that kind of strength and we have that willpower as a people, as colonized people. So it's not going to be too far-fetched in people's minds to realize that colonized people could put this together. You know what I mean? I think that in and of itself is what's going to make it go viral. Oh, also, I think white people are going to be mad because you can't go there. And whenever you tell white people that they can't do something, suddenly their feelings are hurt. And we're gatekeeping and, the normal. Also, is Hammer City going to charge for water? No. Okay, so something that really bothers me about America, about first world countries to begin with, is the waste of water and how that gets put back on colonized people. A lot of times you'll see that we'll be blamed for shit make sure you're turning the water off when you're brushing your teeth. No colonized person is able to create enough water waste that it is going to be at all comparable to the fact that, a lot of these corporations and the waste that these corporations are producing that make the world so awful. Okay, so because of that, Hammer City the Hammer City design team is making sure that we are working with how you as a colonized person, as an average colonized person, are working and using water, and making sure that one is going to be available to you at all costs and that it is not going to be hurting the environment in order to do so. Hammer City is going to be utilizing rainwater collection. We're going to be utilizing the process of repurposing water. We're going to be utilizing all of these things that are so far only experimental, but we know that they're actually only experimental because they would allow, colonized people to not be exploited anymore. So we want to put these things into practice, which means that a lot of times, in a lot of cases, we as colonized people are like, building this from scratch ourselves. There is not a lot of even attempts to do what we're doing in the Hammer City project. If we're going to be honest, sustainability is one of the first things that we have in mind, especially because we are returning this land back to the indigenous people who it belonged to in the first place. You know what I mean? And indigenous people had no problem living sustainably before white people came. You know what I mean? It's part of even our legends that we have, like from the markings that I put on my face to represent my indigenous ancestry. Like, I do this because it is a statement that I'm one with the earth. You know what I mean? And when we return that back, we need to do that, especially because we've known, as at least for the past 20 years, that sustainable and life cycle type industry is what is going to save the planet. We want to cut the bullshit. Start using alternative sources of energy. Start making sure that we're not causing any other colonized person to live at the expense of another. And that goes as far as what your utilities bill is. We're trying to eliminate that completely. We don't want that at all. No rent also means no utilities, all right? So trust us, trust the design team when we say that we're working our ass off to make sure that that's happening. Because we're not doing it. We're not white. We can excel past this, and we're going to, okay? From sheer will and because spite animates the body, honestly. But yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to go on a tangent, but like, that really bothers me. I really, really, really hate how utilities are being forced to on colonized people, especially because I don't know if you know this, but I'm going to give you a little factoid here. A lot of landlords use utilities as a way to keep tenants in and out of their buildings. Especially here in Raleigh, North Carolina, they use the excuse and piggyback off of the excuse that because of shoddy building, that pipes degrade at a slower rate. But what really actually happens is they don't replace shit. And then because of that, your utility bills get higher, which is why a lot of people water bills are so astronomical. And it's because they're purposely letting things break so that eventually the cost of utilities is going to increase. And because of that, utilities increase, lower and working class people are decreased because they are putting all of this money into their utilities plus rent. And that's not sustainable, obviously, because that's how capitalism designs us to be. So then they then use that as a way to evict you, because then you're behind on rent and you're behind on your utilities. So then you have to pay all this money to get utilities so that you're not homeless anymore. And then also the fact that like rent is happening, and then they also then charge the deposit fee. Yeah, it's just a huge thing. And they all connect to each other, which is why it's so important that we get behind the project of Hammer City. Why we keep telling and pressing you guys to donate to Hammer City is because when we say that colonization is involved in every cog of the coil, like we mean it for a reason, because of how this happens. It's called a housing trap for a reason. Okay, like when white people tell you something about themselves, believe it. Okay, housing trap. It's a trap, and that's why. It's because you can't sustain that. And even if you like make it to the point where you're petite bouge and you can, buy your own house, like you still have to work on maintaining it. You still have to deal with the fact that, a lot of colonized people who are working class tradesmen, they have to make the choice between either building this in such a way that they can maintain their steady workflow by things constantly breaking and constantly having things be repaired, or, making to build something so that they're calculating how much they can, skimp out on so that they don't have to, sink so much money into things. Like, we don't want that anymore. We want you to be safe. We want your structures to be safe. We want your utilities to be utilities that aren't something that you're going to have to pay for. You use them. You have to. Anything that a person needs to live is not something that Hammer City is going to require from you. Okay? So that's the main thing. And make sure you're going and you're donating to build Hammer City Project. And make sure you're going and you're saying that Saint sent you so that I can feel like I've done some recruiting and stuff today. But and make sure that you're putting hard targets in the notes section. But yeah, is that all of our questions? I don't want to leave you guys hanging, but also we're running out of time. Yes. Okay. So I guess we're gonna start closing out. I want to reiterate. The articles that we turned out this week were great. They hit a bunch of topics that seem as if they're broad and unrelated, but they all led to the same question. And I really wanted to hear that this week because I wanted to be able to show you guys how, even though these are topics that are at first glance related to each other, they all come back to the same question. They all come back to, why are we as colonized people not allowed to have self-governance and self-determination? And that's important because a lot of the things that go on, a lot of the distractions that colonized people will fucking try to throw at us are that, we can't do this for one reason or another, and that's not the case. You know what I mean? You can't keep distracting people so that we can't see what's happening, because regardless, the main issue is colonization. The main issue will always be colonization. The only issue has been colonization, and you can't just keep throwing lies at people and expect them that they can't fucking see the sky is blue. You know what I mean? Which is why it's so important that we have shows like this and are, trying to get you guys the political news so that you can see that, so that you can see these facts and you can have them stare at you in the face and you can be like, nah, son, something about this isn't adding up. Like, make it make sense. Like, because it doesn't. And it's not going to, because it's not meant to. It's meant to keep you subdued. It's not meant to make sense. And the sooner we realize that, the sooner that we unite together, the sooner we can get to the point where we're taking that self-determination back. We're taking that self-governance back. And it's not, something that we have to fight people for anymore. It's ours. So make sure that you're going to blackhammer.org/sign up and joining us. And then if you want to get, into what's going on the regular and get behind us sharing this news, then join Black Hammer Times. We always need more people. We always have room for more of our family of colonized people, right? So well said. Straight facts, comrade. Thank you. All right. That's all I got to say, y'all. Land back.